Shalom, all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem HaRakah Don't want to say elder apostles of Great Mill Son of Rome, and Shalom to the brothers and works. Sincerity and truth, pushing us away to the four corners. So this on Reclaim the Net, where they're basically talking about the Alaska's digital ID system, which is yet another one. Really, it's like China's obviously at the forefront, where they're like leaps and bounds kind of as far as with it being introduced beyond anyone kind of anyone else put in play. But all these other systems are kind of being developed as well, and it's interesting because obviously AI is the other side of the angle, where all that information, all that data, is that's how they're looking to use it. So some Reclaim the Net says Alaska plots AI-driven digital identity, payments, and biometric data system. So all the things that when you go to the mark, it's it's going to be cool because biometrics be implantable, so you can't be separated from payments, the money system, and then digital identity. So any the way you engage with your name, rather than being able to go and put um you know uh any kind of name you so desire on a on any kind of platform. If you're on Instagram, you could be called Jake777 or something. You're gonna have to, for you to engage with those things, you're gonna have to type to your ID. And it's like, yeah, in the UK now we've got it where um anything that can possibly have over 18 content on it, or it has anything that could be necessitate being proving you're over 18, you then have to either provide ID, or have like AI take a picture of your face, and then AI is going to check, be used to see what age you are. So these systems already in place, but then it's really just weaving them all together. And that's where China's further ahead. These different places are catching up, because as well, it's like it's interesting as well because the UK separated from Europe, and now it's here where the digital ID is being pushed through heavily. And then that could be a framework that then you say like, okay, well, we're gonna apply a similar kind of system. And then the issue was in the UK that they're solving with that is migration, moving between different parts of the world, moving, well, people coming over from different parts of the world. And that's something that was, what was it? It's been an issue with basically everyone. Because why? Because now people are feeling the squeeze. Even more so, people are feeling the squeeze. Therefore, they're thinking like, "Yo, fuck this. I need to, I need to be getting more from my own system." But it's an issue that they've kind of put there. They've stirred it, the pot of that conflict, between migrants and nationals, let's say. So these systems that are getting put in place, there's a reason why they're getting leverage, they're getting pushed through. Because there's what Alaska is advancing plans for a far-reaching redesign of its My Alaska digital identity system, one that would weave agentic artificial intelligence. Funny as well, because it's like the UK ones, what gov.uk, you'd already go on there. Like, you used to have separate sites for like taxes, separate sites for like different branches of government. I think it was under the Tories, they kind of centralized it all to gov.uk, where you have like one government ID, you sign up, and then use that, you log in, and then all these different sections. You're just gonna use the one government ID for. So and that's the thing is with these systems, it's they're resolving one thing, and then as well a lot of I remember in the UK they said it was a lot of these systems are running like paper, filing cabinets, all those like old systems, so they switched over to digital for convenience, and it is convenient, just like with like contactless payments. These things like where you're used to it, and it's like rather than taking out some coins, taking out a note, and then waiting for someone to give you change, blah blah blah, you just go there, you tap, and then it's just like you don't even have to think about it. These are the things. So what does it say? A request for information issued by the Department of Administration's Office of Information Technology describes a system where AI software could automatically handle government transactions, submit applications, and manage personal data, provided the users granted consent. We obtain a copy of the request for information here. What once functioned as a simple login for applying to the permanent fund dividend or signing state forms could soon evolve into a centralized mechanism managing identity, services, and money flows under one digital roof. And yeah, that's the thing with these systems is it could start as seemingly as something kind of benign or simple as resolving an issue, but then it gets expanded out because it's just it's the same thing. What they called it, My Alaska, I think it was called. My Alaska. So this is the plan imagines AI modules that can read documents, fill out forms, verify eligibility, and even initiate tokenized payments. That would mean large portions of personal interactions with government agencies could occur through a machine acting as a proxy for the citizen. And yeah, they have that with a lot of these help systems you have, where it's like if you go on like Amazon or different what you call it, on different sites, you're on different sites, you're then gonna like you might be like, oh, you go to the help section, and then you think they'll say, oh, hey, you're talking to agent I know Daryl, agent Gary, and then you talk to them, and they might say, oh, well, have you tried checking this thing? Have you tried it? And then afterwards say, okay, we're putting you to an actual agent. You realize you've been talking to an AI, where they kind of just take what you've written, run it through an LLM, a large language model, and then kind of just will have like pre-written pages with certain solutions. But then to actually get someone to help, you have to do it's similar to like phone, where I mean, who the hell even phone calls anymore? Where it's like you'd have a phone, you're calling up for help from something. They say, oh, do you could you say what your problem is, or maybe select from this list what your problem is. But obviously with the AI, it's a bit more slick than that. So it says, while the proposal emphasizes efficiency, it also suggests a major change in how the state and its contractors might handle sensitive data. The RFI describes an ambitious technical vision, but provides a limited public explanation of how deeply such agentic AI systems could access, process, or store personal information once integrated with legacy databases. And yeah, because they already have like a bunch of info, and then it's like once you give that to AI, the capabilities of how it can be used is expanded as well. Says even with explicit consent requirements, the architecture could concentrate extraordinary amounts of behavioral and biometric data within a single government managed platform. Yeah, and it's like even with the one over here as well, I think within the space of less than a week of it becoming legal for needing to have the an ID, a form of ID, or the AI checking your age on certain sites. You had different platforms where they got data breaches almost immediately, and a lot of those IDs and people's faces was leaked. Which, you think about that shit, that's just like, it's hilarious, because it's definitely, gonna pop off, because these things, currently, they've got it where it needs to be independently managed, but then, with those data breaches, it's then obviously just going to go to where it gets centralized and like, okay, for safety, for security, we'll do it. And that's what China did very recently. I think it was this year, where they used to have each different site would have to track the, the government ID, or, details of people using it, and then any kind of verification data programs or whatever, they would then have to maintain that information themselves should the government ever come knocking. But they said, it's so much of a burden on the companies. Now the government itself is going to manage and maintain all that. Because why? It's eventually you're going to have it falling short in ways, because some people be like, damn, I just wanted to make some fucking money. I'm looking to, have to manage all this data or whatever. And it's a, cost as well. So then it's something that will default to the government managing it, which, then it, lines up with prophecy. All that information, all that data, basically, in one set of hands. So it says, skipping over, it says the inclusion of biometric authentication, such as facial and fingerprint verification, introduces another layer of sensitive data collection, one that historically has proven difficult to keep insulated from breaches and misuse. A later phase of the program extends the system into digital payments and verifiable credentials, including mobile driver's licenses, professional certificates, hunting and fishing permits, and tokenized paid balances. So, a lot of these things now where you might have an actual government printed ID, or, particular, means to go through for a lot of these different, credentials. You'd have like a physical certificate or something, like a plaque that someone, that, they always have it like in a doctor's office where they have a plaque on the wall of their degree or whatever. But then, with this, now it'd be all digital, to where someone could just be like, oh, I XYZ, I have those qualifications, you check. And it, that would be the default port of call, or it would be used, online, where it's like, oh, you might want to establish your business, how you prove your credentials, you got to go and register those credentials, on the government. So these, it's funny because with these, a lot of people just think, oh, they're just going to keep it separate, or they're just going to focus in one area, or it's just going to maintain a certain level of simplicity. But then, the reality of how it's executed is, it's going to be different. Because clearly, the thing is anyway, is the end goal of these systems is that centralization of all that data, all that information. So, you're thinking, oh, it's only gonna work against me in X, Y, or Z manner. People are being real simple. And then that's why it's like most people are just gonna, they're not gonna take any form of action, not gonna think about it, they're gonna meditate, they're just gonna kind of be caught out there. And it's funny because it's like, they might say, oh, it's just Alaska, it's just this, it's just that, I remember when, what was it, China? I remember when China's social credit score system was announced, and even with like WeChat and not even WeChat, it's more WePay and Alipay. Those centralized apps where you have it all in one place, and then where people are commenting and doing things online, it's there. And then the social credit score, where those certain regions where you behave in certain ways, then you lose the right to use public transport, use the right to move between different regions, all kinds of things. People are thinking, oh, it's just gonna be over there, but it's funny as well because really with this term of Trump, that hammer's come down as far as the domestic situation not being all sweet. Because why? The ICE has been super funded and pushed out there. Same for Palantir, super funded, put out there, utilizing technology, information, and force. These are things that become as a standard. And what do you call it? Trump's rousing up war in South America as well. These things are all coming to a head, and it's all part of lines up with them prophecies, man. Because we'll say it's a frame as modernization. The learning pattern predicted needs and operating continues with it. Okay. So yeah. So a bit further down it says once deployed, an AI can act on behalf of a person. An AI that can act on behalf of a person also becomes capable of learning their patterns, predicting their needs, and operating continuously within government databases. Once Alaska's system moves forward, it will join a growing roster of governments weaving digital ID into the core of civic and online life. Across Europe, Canada, and Australia, digital identity frameworks are increasingly framed as gateways to public and private services, while emerging proposals in the US hint at a future where identity verification might become routine for accessing even basic online platforms. And yeah, these are that's the thing is, anyone paying attention to it, you can see this is something that's come together over a period of time, because it's interesting how it's all expanded, and even the awareness, the discussion around all these things until like the digital ID in the UK was a big one, but then even then it's like there's a big kind of push against it. But then, they're just going through with it anyway. And then as well, it's like become routine for accessing even basic online platforms. That's the other aspect a lot of people miss. A lot of people will say like, well, I've got nothing to hide. There was a proper quote. It was the NSA, when the NSA breach happened, when was Edward Snowden exposed the NSA was spying. They said, well, you shouldn't have it. So I ain't got anything to hide, so I don't mind, them looking into everything. But obviously it's then, people being simple as all hell. Normalize constant identification, replacing open pseudo-anonymous nature of the early internet with a model where every interaction begins with proving who you are. And yeah, they've been pushing it for that in the UK. It's funny because the push they initially did over here as well was saying like, because of online bullying, because of people being racist online, because of people saying certain things, we should have people's real name tied to their ID. And then that was, people like had backlash against that. But then, the latest angle they've pushed is this for children, saying, social media, the way it's damaging children, damaging the mentality of children, the mental health of children being ruined, that then instead have them fuck with have them restricted from certain things. But to restrict them, you then need to ID all the adults. But then that functionally you get that end goal anyway that you desire, where you're getting IDs, pictures of everyone tied to whatever their account is. and then they say like, oh, after it checks, it's meant to just delete the pictures or whatever, that you send it. But then, it obviously from the leaks it came out, oh, that obviously wasn't true, because otherwise it would have, information that they weren't meant to have, that got leaked somehow. But then they also had to keep it for a certain period of time anyway, just in case the government comes knocking to prove that they are tracking it. So it's just, it's the end goal of whatever the botch implementation they do. The end goal it's basically justified to get what they want, where they'll have it. You have to deal with a system. You have to navigate through it, and then if you don't do, then you're locked off. Yeah, it's gonna go into more. I'll read this. Revelation 12:12. It says, "Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time." And yeah, because even with the digital ID over here, it's on the back of saying, oh, we're cutting out migrants from accessing these things. They're then pushing to where you want to get a job, you want to rent somewhere, you want to to do things that are basic and essential, to open a bank account. The monetary aspect has coming again. Then you need to get one of these, or else. And that's really the kind of the hand being shown. Because I read it, in fact. Was it Revelation 13:16? It says, "In cause of all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name." So you can't buy or sell. You can't utilize the monetary system. And that's really a big aspect of what a lot of people are going to kind of be viewing, and the angle they're going to approach from is they'll be like, damn, you can't get paid, you can't work, you can't thingy. And then you might try go off the grid. But then a lot of people being off the grid, that's not something I'm going to be able to deal with. And it's funny because there's been little, a slow ramp up, like I read Revelation 12:12, where they kind of were building to, okay, we're going to strict this, we're going to strict that, and then see how people go. And then the big one was the pandemic, the lockdowns, where it showed a lot of people just folded, man. You had those that resisted, but by and large, people folded. People out here losing their minds if you weren't wearing a mask, and now mask season's back. So we'll kind of see, what the fallout will be. But this whole system's coming together, and there's a bunch of different so-called legs, strands, approaches they're kind of describing. But it's the end goal, the final result is looking like it's going to be the same thing, man, where you're going to have to engage with that system to function, things that you now take for granted to do a lot of those functions. You have to engage with that system. And then, as we know, according to prophecy, there'll be a point in time where, you're gonna be tested about receiving that mark or not. A lot of people are gonna run, jump, and take it, man. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Shalom. Shalom.